Hi, and thanks for tuning in. My name is David, and I'm going to talk to you about buying inexpensive used notebook PCs like the kind you see advertised on Craigslist, eBay, and by other private sellers out there on the World Wide Web, and compare that to buying a brand new, albeit low-end notebook. You may be surprised at the real difference in costs. So in this video, I hope I can answer some questions for you and maybe bring some things to light. We looked on Craigslist in the Chicago area in July of 2011 and found 9 notebooks listed by private sellers for $100 to $150. We ruled out anything that said it wasn't working or incomplete, so we assumed that all 9 would be fully functional. But how much do you really save by buying a cheap used notebook? The processors advertised ranged in speed from 500 megahertz to 1.8 gigahertz. Hard drives from 12 gigabytes to 200 gigabytes, with most in the 40 to 80 gigabyte range. RAM from 256 megabytes to 1.5 gigabytes, mostly already installed with 512 megabytes or 1 gigabyte. Most had wireless G included, but not the more current N technology. Screens ranged in size from 12.1 inches to 17 inches. The typical processor included was a solo-core Pentium 4 with 1.5 gigahertz clock speed. 2 listings were for units with the much older Pentium 3 processor, and a couple included dual-core CPUs. Most everyone who has dropped by our tech support room after purchasing a used notebook from a private seller didn't buy it to do anything particularly demanding. Usually they needed a word processor, simple spreadsheet capability, and most of all a way to browse the web and check email. Most of their questions center around the speed and upgradability of the notebook. Some came in after it was too late. The OS was corrupted or disabled because it was not validated. The hard drive had failed, or the unit would not turn on because of a bad logic board, or they're looking to replace the battery, which is not exactly an inexpensive part. Most of the units advertised will not support anything larger than an 80 gigabyte hard drive and will max out at 2 gigabytes of RAM. In some cases, the computer simply will not recognize a larger hard drive at all. Also, during July 2011, Micro Center advertised a new, not refurbished notebook with a 2.2 gigahertz processor, 3 gigabytes of RAM, Windows 7, a 320 gigabyte hard drive, and an optical drive that could not only play DVDs, it could burn them as well. This is a very modest set of specs compared to all the powerful new notebooks available, but then again, the $150 used notebook buyer isn't looking to do anything that demanding to begin with. What's more, the unit came with a 1-year warranty from the manufacturer. In the next few minutes, we'll look at how buying a used notebook may not be the bargain you might expect. Most of the notebooks listed came with 512 megabytes or 1 gigabyte of RAM. Most notebooks more than 5 years old will max out at 2 gigabytes of RAM. They simply will not recognize anything more, even if more is installed. They also may not even power on unless the excess RAM is removed. Maxing out the RAM will usually require buying a quantity of 2 1 gigabyte modules. Expect to pay around $60 plus tax if this is a do-it-yourself project. If you require professional installation of the memory, you can see that once you pay about $30 in labor for the upgrade, you're within $20 or so of a new notebook, not including the sales tax. Unfortunately, there is no trade-in value for the original memory modules removed from the notebook for the upgrade. From this point on, what we're going to cover is the cost when something goes wrong. Many old notebooks are equipped with hard drives with the older IDE technology. Replacement drives are fewer in number, and you can expect to pay more for them than hard drives with the newer SATA technology. Expect to pay around $90 before tax to replace the drive if you buy from a retail store. Hopefully you were given an installation disk to install the computer's operating system onto the new drive. If you need to have a technician install the hard drive for you, you can expect to pay around $40 for the installation. You've now passed the price of that new notebook that was advertised, by the way. If you need to have an operating system installed, add another $100 or so for the installation. If you don't have the installation CD, namely for Microsoft Windows, you may still be able to have the version of Windows that originally came installed with the notebook reinstalled if its certificate of authenticity is still intact on the bottom of the unit and the product key is legible. Most reputable service providers will not install Windows if there is no COA label on the unit and the owner cannot provide one. Here are some other typical costs for repairs if they become necessary. If you were sold the notebook with Microsoft Office installed, meaning Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, and you weren't provided an installation CD that says Office on it, you'll need to purchase a new CD should you have to replace or erase the hard drive and reinstall Windows. When the notebook becomes unusable due to damage, due to drops, spills, cracks, and even normal wear and tear, most of the time the costs will render the unit not economical to repair and will vary widely. If you're still sure you can't pass up that notebook on the auction site and you're a technological handyman, there's still some questions you want to ask. Notice something here? It isn't much different than buying a used car from a private seller now, is it? Check the keyboard. Look for missing keys. Press down lightly across the keyboard with the palm of your hand. If the keys don't pop back up or they make a sticky sound, that can be the sign of a liquid spill, and that means it's not a matter of if, but when the system's going to fail. Look at the AC adapter. Look for frays and exposed wiring in the power cord and plug it in. AC adapters should have an LED either on the transformer or at the tip where it connects into the computer. Sometimes the LED is also on the computer on the port. This should light up. Look at the AC inlet. Plug the AC adapter into the inlet on the side or back of the notebook. It should slip in and resist if pulled on. If it wiggles, it's loose, meaning the contact inside is likely to break off of the logic board or the power will cut off if it isn't in there at a certain angle. Take the battery out and power on the notebook with the AC adapter connected. If the notebook powers on in post, then the adapter is good. Reconnect the battery, unplug the adapter, and power the notebook on to check if the battery is good. You'll only discover how good the battery is after running the notebook off of it. If you're getting low battery messages after less than 2 hours of use, the battery is probably no longer properly charging and will need to be replaced. Look at the USB ports for sign of damage. Worn and damaged USB connectors can render them useless. If you don't check out the notebook in a quiet environment, you may be in for a rude surprise later on when you try to use it in the public library and the fan is spinning at full RPM. A loud fan's usually a sign that the computer had been repaired and not repaired properly, or that the unit is destined to overheat. If possible, open a command line window, type checkdisk /F and click OK. You will probably have to restart the computer. Go ahead and do so. The check disk program will run after the restart. If it finds any errors, freezes, or takes more than 5 minutes to complete, most likely Windows is corrupt and may require reinstallation, or the hard drive may have to be replaced before long. Look at the available space on the hard drive. It's common for older notebooks to have 80 gigabytes of less in total space. Look for a folder called Windows.old. This is a sign that Windows was reloaded already and there might have been some trouble. Some notebooks have a wireless switch in the front or the side of the unit. Flip this switch on and notice if an LED pops on or off. Some may have the wireless switch embedded across the top of the keyboard as a function. If the wireless is turned on and working, Windows should pop up with a message saying that it is found nearby wireless networks. Try if you can to set up a connection, and this will help you test the browser later. If you can connect to a network, open the web browser and make sure it loads a home page. If any error messages pop up, it could mean the browser, or worse, Windows, is corrupt and may require a factory restore. While we're on the topic of Windows, look for a COA label on the bottom of the unit. Look for on-screen messages prompting Windows activation, especially when it first loads. If the version of Windows installed does not match the version on the COA label, or the seller cannot provide you with a non-handwritten, non-photocopied In other words, original certificate of authenticity for the Windows version that is installed. The software is most likely not genuine in Microsoft parlance and can cripple the use of the computer very soon. In fairness, not every seller is looking for an easy mark to unload their unwanted junk and pocket some green. The fact is, many sellers don't really know that the reason CheckDisk keeps running on their computer and finding bad sectors is because their hard drive is failing. And the majority of us have no idea about the terms of Windows licensing and legality. If you're a savvy tech shop or on a budget, you might make out quite nicely with a fixer-upper, but if you need an inexpensive solution to play DVDs and browse the web, consider all that spending a little more upfront will save you down the road in terms of time, money, and peace of mind. Thank you for watching.